Hey YouTube, so here's a little clip of me talking.
Hello YouTube, how are you YouTubers? Hope you're enjoying the day. Well, my favorite coffee shop just closed down, and I thought I'd do a little sketch to remember the place, put a sketch in my book. And this first part, the sketch is kind of light, and it took me about just short of, what's it say on the clip, 11 minutes and 49 seconds it took to do the sketch. So I don't want to make you watch that whole thing. We'll kind of fast forward through that, and then I'll put a little ink on it and have a few comments to make while we're doing that. So here's a little bit of the sketch, and I'll throw in a picture of the place. It's kind of sad to watch it close down because, I don't know, I've been going there a couple of years, and it was, not only was it a place with a little bit of character, they had 60s albums on the roof, you know, on the ceiling of the place, and it just had a lot of memorabilia in it, but it was also close to me, which out here where I live, very out in the middle of nowhere, is important when it's 30 minutes to get somewhere. Takes us, it's an hour round trip if I go to the grocery store for a gallon of milk. So anyway, we'll fast forward through the sketch and then we'll get to inking it.
So yeah, the rest of this video I'm gonna narrate. It's kind of funny, I finished this drawing in my sketchbook, and I actually did finish the painting in my sketchbook. I filmed it as well, but I made a mistake. I forgot to turn on any lights, so the video of both the inking and the watercolor were very, very dark. So anyway, I don't know if you can see the drawing in here either because I did it so lightly, but I'll fast forward through this. It only takes a minute or two, and I went ahead and drew another one, and we'll ink that in and paint it, and you'll get to see what it looks like. This was such a fun place. The cafe, the Bosque House of Brews. And you'll see I took a lot of liberties. I didn't put in all the words. Like under Bosque House of Brews, it says in small lettering, coffee and vapes, which they quit doing vapes early on in the restaurant's lifetime. Here you're going to see, I'm going to show you the ink pen. I'm using a Lamy Safari to do the inking. And I've already done the sketch again because this video was going to be horrendously long. In fact, when I first loaded this video, it was over 50 minutes with all the clips that I made that I thought should be in it. And there were things I really wanted to put in here, but I cut it down. Maybe now I cut it down pretty short. But anyway, yeah, that says Lamy Safari, and it's got Noodler's ink as usual. I like that Noodler's polar bear, so I like the color. And the one I did in my journal, I actually inked it in with you know, a quill, old-fashioned, you know, dip pen. And I'll do some more of those in the future. We'll have some fun with that stuff. Yeah, this place, I was really sorry to see it close. It was just a fun place, you know. They really thought it out. The signage was great. You know, on the building, someone took a lot of time to design it and make it look pretty nice. And inside it had things like saxophones on the wall, and not a xylophone, but it's a much smaller looking thing. I can't think of the name, but and guitars and albums all stapled to the ceiling, and old albums, Beatles and 50s stuff, 60s stuff. You know, it just had a lot of memorabilia in it. And they'd play music around the time of the, you know, during the season, the holiday season. And they'd dress it up for Halloween. I had a little guy there. That was one of the photographs I wanted to put in here, was I had photographs of the inside because I used to sit in there and sketch the place. And I also had a picture of a flyer that I had developed. I was just about to start teaching a class in the coffee shop, you know, just teaching a sketching class, how to do urban sketching. And anyway, they closed down. I made the flyer, and it was a nice little work of art, you know, a lot of typesetting and nice drawing. And then before I got to hold the first class, they closed, so, which was really kind of a bummer. On this, I'm kind of experimenting here. You'll see that the lettering, especially on the video, in real life, it looked okay, passable for your sketchbook. You know, I like to make little loose things. But what I did here was, because I had some light colored lettering, I wanted to experiment and see how much trouble it would be to outline it that small. You know, I'm actually a real sign writer from the old days. Of course, you can't tell by this, when we hand lettered things. And I wanted to see if I could, how neatly the lettering would come out if I painted around it. Well, you can see it might work in your journal, but it didn't work out very well. So, well, you'll see how I resolve the issue in the end there. Yeah, you'll see what I end up having to do. You know, I think I kind of followed in James Gurney. You know, James Gurney, I'm learning to do, I guess you'd call it mixed media. You know, I'm not afraid to use a little gouache especially on these little sketches. James Gurney does gouache paintings, and he does watercolors, and sometimes he mixes them. You know, I mean, he'll use a little watercolor and then use gouache to make something stand out, which I do as well. But I used to have this purist thing where I only wanted to be using watercolor. And then I saw a video on Kincaid. I don't know if you know, if you study art or not, but Kincaid was, I mean, he was famous, man, for making these very prosaic little postcards, you know, with little cottages, and some of them in snow and some of them in summer. Here I'm using gouache but I had planned to do that, and the blues were not quite showing up, so I dry a couple of the letters and then put in a darker blue. Anyway, he was very well known, but he was no kind of a purist, man. If you watch the videos, his little postcards that people bought by the millions, he used everything. You know, he even went to the extent of a lot of them had airbrushing in them to give it a cloudy or a misty effect. So I guess it really just depends on who's doing the art and how you feel about it. I used to feel like I was cheating if I did anything non-traditional, and that's a pretty ridiculous attitude to have if you're going to do art, at least to me. There are, of course, traditional arts that are, you know, well worth it. But for what I do, you can see me scrubbing. There was a little spot there that was really bothering me, so I decided to go ahead and throw some grass in there, a little bit of, you know, something to ground the sign to the ground anyway. It needed a little weight down there. There's a painter over in Australia, I can't think of his name, doggone it. I'll put him in another video. I really like watching his watercolor videos. And here you I want it to be loose, but it was a little too loose. Anyway, he says if you make a mistake, he says, just say that's what it wanted. Yeah, that's what it wanted. And then nothing you do will ever be a mistake. It would be, that's what it wanted. Well, anyway, listen, I enjoy doing these things, and this one's a good one just for my personal journal. I may even glue this one in on the next page. You'll see it when I reveal that journal one day, probably. Anyway, I had a lot of fun doing them. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to put the clip at the end here so you can pause it and do one of your own if you'd like. Aha, doodly poop. Listen, I hope you guys get out and paint something today, or do something right there on your couch if you can. Thanks for watching. We really appreciate you guys showing up. I'll see you on the next one.